Google Gemini 1.5 was upstaged by ChatGPT. It's almost like the ChatGPT's watching Google and say, "Hey, they're about to announce something new. Let's get something cooler out."
I think that's about right. I think, you know, it's a cat and mouse game. It's tit for tat. I think they all talk, and I think they all kind of know before we know what's about to come out. So there's a lot of strategic planning, I think, between the different companies here lately.
I don't know. I kind of think the leaks in Google, because it's so big, it'd be like a sieve. The people over in ChatGPT might be a little more tight-lipped. They find out and they go, hold it till this occurs and lets it out. And I just want to state this is an example of an update from our AI book, because we designed the book giving you the fundamentals. Then in the back of the book, it has a link and QR code right there that takes you to this playlist so you can keep up as things evolve. So this gives you the fundamentals. Make sure if you haven't gotten the book, right there, the link will be below. Justin, let's talk about some major changes that have occurred in AI recently.
So last week was a pretty busy week, and I think YouTube is still spinning from all the videos that have been uploaded and are still uploading even today. One thing was Google just recently updated Gemini, and then all of a sudden, within, a couple of weeks or a short time frame, it's Gemini 1.5. They're talking about this thing is capable of handling 1 million tokens. And to put that in perspective, if you're a fan of the Harry Potter books, that's, I believe, six and a half of the 7 books, essentially, and as far as tokens and the equivalent pages of what that amounts to. And then a lot of people aren't familiar with the needle in a haystack test that they do, which essentially gauges whether a language model is able to identify certain specific information within a large amount of data. And so the name aptly is relevant with needle in a haystack. And so within that max token, Gemini or Google is reporting that Gemini is finding 99% of the time, a specific keyword or a specific phrase within these massive amounts of data and information. So, to put that in perspective, if you have six and a half of the 7 Harry Potter books and you put a phrase in the 4th book on page 256, it finds it 99% of the time, even if you move it around within the book series. So that's pretty impressive. And the things that are really coming from that, not just in Gemini as a tool, but in Google Labs and what you're able to do here recently. There's updates, but I was working on slides the other day. You're able now to generate images right from slides. You're able to remove background from images. Very clean, as good as any tool that I've used, such as remove.bg or ClipDrop, right there from slides. So now it's getting to a point where you don't even have to exit out of the window or change windows, which is frustrating for anybody who's a content creator or works with these things. So Google's really starting to catch up. It's almost like you said, I think they wanted to play the long game. And so instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses, they just kind of were biding their time and then launched it. And so as soon as that happened, OpenAI last week announced that it's taken privacy a lot more seriously, with being able to, one, turn off, tracking for your information or your chats and threads, so that way it's not training data and different things like that. So you're able to kind of safeguard your prompts and your history. And then on top of that, Sora. And it's really impressive what this tool is able to do. It's able to create videos from text to video for up to 60 seconds. A lot of people were saying 60 minutes and hence have had to go back and edit their videos, but at 60 seconds, it's pretty impressive. But I think some of the critics are really hitting the nail on the head of this is stuff that's generated as part of their demo, and some of the demo stuff you can do on their website. But when the tool really releases, a lot of people were really impressed with DALL-E when it first came out on the demo on the web page. But when they actually started using it, some of that enthusiasm kind of dropped a little bit. Now, personally, I'm happy with DALL-E. I think it creates some pretty cool stuff. I mean, I'm being realistic with what we're able to get. It's still an amazing tool, and I'm happy to have it. So I'm not going to knock it or anything. But a lot of people are starting to get a little nervous of, is Sora really going to be this good, or is this just the carrot that is leading us. And then when we actually get to use it, it's going to be a little less impressive, which is really weird to me because the fact that it's text to video generation, and we've never really had that before. We've had it, but if you've ever seen the videos of Will Smith trying to eat spaghetti, you understand this is leaps and bounds from what we've had in the last 6 months. So again, a lot of updates coming out of the AI world here recently, and that's just really the big ones. There's a ton of stuff coming out every day, and I think we're really going to see some 2024 be kind of year of breakthroughs, and we've recently talked that with the interview with David Amberlin. I think we're really going to see a lot of both on the device side and the capability side. We're going to see this all throughout 2024.
I think what we're going to see is all the companies are going to come out with demos a little flashier than the reality. Because, I mean, Google did the demo of their first system when it came out, and people go, I could do that with ChatGPT if I did individual frames. So I agree with you on that. The other thing is it still doesn't seem to quite know what right and left is, and some of the laws of physics aren't correctly working out. The amazing thing here is it's the beginning. It's sort of like, you know, the first digital camera that people would carry around that wasn't just a large lab unit. If you thought about it, that's where the future's going. So it's not that movies will be gone in the next 6 months, but the next 5 years, there'll be a real severe competitor with this as it gets more competitive. So, and more refined and more accurate, and they'll implement understanding what we consider the laws of physics in it. And that's why we need to pay attention to this as another step forward in imaging, because now we're getting this idea of imaging from text, video, and audio. Google's working on it. ChatGPT is clearly working on it. All the players are realizing this multimodal idea is going to have to be, that's the next generation. That's the next algorithm. So we do want to watch it. And then for the ordinary people, this is the level playing field for small businesses to jump in, because at some point the free where they're letting us test it and use it will cost money or will be gated. It could go down in cost, but still, this is the time to learn. The other thing is there's some big deep fakes that have occurred recently internationally. That's where we tell people who are afraid of AI, the best defense to AI and not being manipulated is learn something about it, because those of us could spot deep fakes. And this was, I think, in Asia or something, where they had like a Zoom meeting and got a bunch of fake humans in it and got someone to agree to pass on a large amount of money. And, you know, when Justin, when you and I look at it, we would have spotted it because we're training our eyes to notice this. And that's why it's so important that people are worried about it get educated. The uneducated are still the most vulnerable.
And you're absolutely right. And I actually did a Instagram post on that exact scenario. So essentially it was a financial officer in a Chinese company, and when it was all said and done, essentially the whole meeting was just him and AI generated individuals. And it was convincing enough that I don't think he was necessarily new or did not understand his job, but it was convincing enough that it was the millions of dollars that were involved with it. And then again, another post that I recently did is we've seen YouTube, some things that don't just feel right. And, you know, one of it being some of these $6,400 bits where, you know, Kurt Russell, Andrew Tate, you know, all Joe Rogan, all these people that you really wouldn't necessarily expect to all hang out and agree on something, but it's talking about this $6,400 stimulus package, but it's their voice or something similar to it, but then it's not actually a video of them speaking. It's clips that you can find from all over YouTube pieced together with that playing in the background. Seems a little weird, and seems weird that there'd be so many of these diverse personalities all rooting for the same thing. And then one of the more successful posts I've had lately was I was actually going through YouTube on my personal time, just, you know, learning some things. And a video came up of Tucker Carlson. Now, agree with him, don't like him, that's beside the point. But it was Tucker Carlson telling everybody who supported him with the whole Fox fiasco that he's willingly given out Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is weird enough. But then when you really look at it, it doesn't feel right. His mouth is blurry. He moves his head one way, his mouth moves the other, things that by the laws of physics, a human body shouldn't do. And even his voice, even if you've only heard a few minutes of him, his voice just didn't sound right. And so I was able to take a recording of that and put it out there as a way of, hey, look, here's some obvious signs on how to spot, AI generated video and how it can easily be identified as false. But the thing is to take these personalities, Andrew Tate, Kurt Russell, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, who have, everybody worldwide knows these individuals, and they have no shortage of the ability to take legal action against this. But for people to be so bold as to take individuals such as these and just willingly throw it out there, that just shows how, one, accessible these tools are to be able to use them this way. And then two, these individuals aren't afraid. They're not scared of it. We're still not seeing a ton of legislation or court cases, even in the Supreme Court, of how this is affecting things. The only thing we really have to go on is the actors' strike in Hollywood, with shows like The Mandalorian that were able to recreate a young Mark Hamill for Luke Skywalker, or some of the Indiana Jones films with Harrison Ford, and even Tron Legacy, where they were able to use these tools to recreate a younger feature of somebody. The basis came out, well, why don't we do this more often? Why do we have to spend so much money on actors when we have these tools that are good enough that with a little editing from professionals, we can just go ahead and use them mainstream? You see how that put a whole industry on strike and brought everything to a standstill. Now, I don't think that graphic designers and video editors need to hang up their hats yet, but I think 2024, you're really going to see how you and I've been teaching all through 2023 of it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's someone who took the time and invested the time, skills, resources into learning how to use AI to augment their abilities are going to take your job or threaten your job. So I don't think we're going to see graphic designers give up. I do think there are tools such as Sora. Vidio is another one where you can essentially edit videos just by using prompts without any editing skills. And these tools, yes, they're giving power to novice designers, small businesses, things like that, to where it may not be to production quality, but it's enough for them to use for advertising. So I think this is going to raise the floor up a little bit on what skills are needed to actually create materials that can be marketed. But I don't think you're going to see, tried and true graphic designers really get nervous unless they did not get on this wave and did not learn these skills. I think 2024, you're going to start to see a shift and a separation, a widening gap between those who used 2023 to get on board and get ahead of the game and those who are just now starting to ride this wave.
Or still running from it.
Right.
Another thing I want to talk about is ChatGPT extended memory, because that's pretty interesting, where you can set it up so it will remember and work more with you. And I'm really excited to work with it because I want to train it more on my voice.
Mm-hmm.
But it also means you may want to turn it off if you don't want it keeping this data. That's, to me, another upgrade in the ChatGPT world that's worth mentioning.
Right. And OpenAI has really done a considerable amount of work, and you can see why individuals are starting to get excited or nervous, depending on which camp you're in, about them achieving AGI. One of the funnier things I've seen here lately are all the different memes coming out about Sam Altman going to his supporters asking for 7 trillion and just the reaction to that. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that. It's not 7 trillion all at once, but it's 7 trillion, an estimate of 7 trillion over the long term to put in this infrastructure that he's seeing. And I've got to give it to him as a businessman. It's a very smart idea and it's a very good roadmap for investment because with, shaky tensions with China, how Taiwan plays into that, competitors in AI such as Nvidia. Well, Nvidia is a great example because they essentially hold the keys to the gate for the chips that these companies need. And so with them starting to launch their own language model that can be run locally from your desktop or any version of that, it should scare some of these companies because now they're suppliers in the game. And so why wouldn't you if you had the ability to build, a start to finish, developer to end user supply chain to where you control everything? Why wouldn't you do that? And so I think it's necessary at this point, because like you said, with the extended memory, with the GPTs, the plugins, Sora, DALL-E, all the advancements, and then them actually taking a step toward the consumer and the user by saying, look, we also want to safeguard your privacy. And in addition to all these tools that we're giving you to make you more successful and productive, why wouldn't we want to control the beginning to end process? And so the larger memory, the privacy protection, and then the tools that they're continuing to pursue, I'm excited about the fact that one day there could be a device that houses all of this, or devices that house all of these things that integrate better than, just essentially Samsung or Apple. Now, I have no problem. I use an iPhone. I use PC and Apple, Google, and Microsoft. And so I try to use all of them to get the best of all of them. But I've got to say, I'm pretty excited about the fact that one day I could have a specialized piece of equipment or pieces of equipment that house all of these tools seamlessly that I can use to be the most efficient and productive version of myself. So it's really excited, and I'm really excited to see how 2024 progresses.
The other technology, of course, came out is the Apple's new Apple Vision Pro. Apple
The
Vision
Vision
Pro.
Pro, yeah.
Yeah, Apple Vision Pro that just came out. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw it, but Zuckerberg came out and did a fireside chat going, I tried it and I got to tell you, it's just
Hmm.
not as good as ours. I thought that was some of his best marketing ever. If we
Oh,
can
yeah.
find that YouTube, we'll put it down there because from a marketing perspective, that authenticity of him talking, I mean, we know he was script, but it didn't feel script, and it put a smile on your face. It's like, we
Hmm.
tried this out. It's kind of heavy, and we have a lot of these features already, and it's a lot of money. And I just thought we're going to see those two. Which is great. The competing, which means you'll be better. Then a former employee of one of the companies has come out
Apple.
with a new glass. Was it Apple the
Hmm.
glass? The circle. They look like the circular glass that has an AI interface, and then there's the rabbit. I'm waiting for
Hmm.
mine to come in, so we'll do a demo on it. Just understand, all these are converging. These are happening at the
Right.
same time. So if this Apple system Pro and then Facebook's competing with it along with the AI together. I don't know any time in history when such major frontiers of technology were coming up at the same time. So I think it's really an exciting time. And of course, we know of this augmented reality, but also the virtual reality. The metaverse didn't go away, it just got overshadowed, and many of us realize it's a little before its time. The technology will come. So in looking at the big picture of this, you need to realize these are all players affecting our lives and the future.
Right. And there's a lot right there in that conversation. And you're right. Personally, I think one of the best marketers of the upcoming generation, I guess you could say my generation, more Gen X, has got to be Ryon Rentals. Just seeing what
Uh-huh.
he's done with everything he's touched, and I really do enjoy. I mean, I'm a fan of him. I for I've watched his movies for a long time. He's got a lot of wit. You could tell he's very smart. But I think what he's done specifically with Mint Mobile and the marketing tactics he's taken. And, if you take it at face value, all the things he does to keep costs low to his customers, and then you take into account the soccer league and the documentary that they did with that and just the whole marketing structure of that, it's really amazing. And the reason I bring up Ryon Rentals is because he makes himself very approachable in a way, even though you could call him superstar status.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we saw with Zuckerberg, because
Yeah.
really we're not used to really seeing Zuckerberg from that angle, especially
Right.
over the last few years with all the congressional hearings. He kind of you just look up some of the memes on him again. And so seeing that, like I said, fireside chat, almost like it was filmed on a cell phone. Yeah, that was pretty cool because that was a lot more relaxed angle than we're used to seeing. And I think where we're going, there's a lot of pop culture and there's a lot of sci-fi out there. And you could go doomsday with, cyberpunk, Blade Runner, things like that. You can go a little lighter with just augmented reality. But I think where we're going is really the peak advancement of this is a AI or an AGI that works with humanity, and then you have some form of the visual optical wear, glasses, goggles, or something like that, that allows you to shift between augmented reality and virtual reality. So, for example, you could be working in a coffee shop and working augmented to where you're still aware of what's around you, you're still able to see, but then in a moment's notice be able to flip to a virtual world where you can be meeting in Eastern North Carolina with somebody in Shanghai in a kind of meta style meeting room. I think that's where the peak operation is. And although no one has really achieved that fully yet, I think what we're seeing with Apple and Facebook and or Meta is going that route. And then the, previous Apple exec who came up with the glasses, I really think the design of those glasses was a nod to Steve Jobs. When you really
Uh-huh.
look at it, the kind of
Yeah.
circular.
Yeah.
I've looked at all of these and the demos that are out there. Those glasses to me are actually the ones I'm most excited about. And to take glasses not much different from the ones I'm wearing now, and then something like a Rabbit handheld device that is Bluetooth connected or whatnot, that to me gets me very excited because one, nobody really wants to carry around a headset all day, especially a headset that's wired to a power supply. It doesn't fit well in your bag. You don't want to wear it on your head all the way. So if you had something that was glasses that you were able to augment or even switch to virtual, and then the power supply was literally your phone, it's not much different than having your iPhone in your pocket with AirPods in a way. And so that the utility of that's very easy to maneuver, easy to charge and carry, but then being able to be your own mobile workstation, I can go ahead and tell you that I think our culture is going to have to do some changing and some catching up because we're in 2024 after COVID and the whole world reorganized how it worked for COVID. And then it seemed like before a even year passed after the official ending, it was everybody back to work, no more remote work. And it seems like remote work is almost disappearing. And so we made these great leaps culturally and in the workplace. And we have these advancements that if you can imagine staying in a kind of a healthy version of post-COVID with these type of advancements, what kind of productivity we could be looking at, it seems kind of redundant that we've taken a step back. And I think part of that is why some people are fearful of this. They kind of associate that virtual work with AI, if that makes sense. And so I think we're going to have to look at some things again, kind of refocus what we think the workplace should look at like and what productivity should look like. And it frustrates me because I'm not obsessed with efficiency, but I really live efficiency and productivity. And so for me to see the tools that we have at hand and the capability we have and the mindset that we have toward virtual work as a whole, it's going to be an interesting year, but I think these tools are so good and they're so effective that there's going to have to be a paradigm shift.
Well, this is what we want to do is give a summary of changes that have occurred and have some discussions. Justin, let's leave our small businesses because that's the main focus of the book with a few tips from this they should focus on. And to me, one is start playing with images on the different platforms because they're all working to upgrade the platform. So go to Gemini, which is Google. They're all renaming themselves. So this means we have to, we teach the class in a week. We have to update the slides, of course, but we have to anyway. But go to Gemini, generate some images, see if it's improved from your experience. ChatGPT, try the different ones. And if you have a project, don't just assume because one the last month wasn't as useful that it
Right.
might not have improved enough that it's useful. So that's, to me, one of the tips to give people is don't put them just in the box. If you got a new project, let's do a prompt in each one and see which one seems to move us forward in the direction we want faster.
What I would do, honestly, is take all four tools, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, and ChatGPT. All of them have free versions, and take a task that maybe is mundane. You know how to do it, you know how it should work, you know what the product should look like, and create one prompt, put the prompt in all four tools, word for word, don't change anything, and just see what kind of outcome each of them pulls out. One, that's going to teach you kind of how they work, what their strengths are and weaknesses are as far as you're concerned. And then I'm pretty sure there's going to be one or two contenders that kind of pop out more in what you're looking for than the others. And what I would say is, even if you find that one tool or two tools that you really like, don't just throw the other two away, because again, daily, weekly, these things are catching up. Gemini, Bard, I wasn't very impressed with Bard for a little while as compared to Copilot and ChatGPT. I make sure each week to go in and use all of them. I will say I used Gemini for a task today, and it far exceeded my expectations and really exceeded what I got from the other three tools. And so that I was pleasantly surprised, and that kind of redeemed it for me in comparison to what I'm typically doing. And so every now and then I just put a short test through all of them. That allows me to understand where they're at. And then two, I may discover some update that I haven't heard about yet that they've done with these tools that can benefit me in ways I didn't even think about. Obviously, you're going to find one that's really going to do what you like a lot better than the others. Lean on that one, use that one. That's great, but just don't discount everything else, and always continuously learn. Always take the time to sign up for, try different newsletters. You're going to find ones that are really good for you. Seek training like Martin and I do. That way you can always keep updated on the current trends and current tools. And, seek coaching. Martin and I offer coaching on things just like we're talking about now. Every now and then, seek coaching. If anything, seek it for an update or a recorrect, or if you find tools that you're really curious about. We do this every single day. This is what we do day in and day out, and we tie it to how your small business can be successful. So always seek expert advice, subject matter experts on these tools, because a visit or a consulting session may be the difference between you getting ahead of your competitor or falling behind.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put a bunch of links below, so check them out on topics we talked about. And again, I just want to say this is part of an extension of our book. I highly recommend it. It's on Amazon. You can pick it up. It's also available on Kindle. And we're building out this year an updated training as well, so that those that have read the book and can just like show us the book, we'll give them some special on that. And we have a community. So if you have bought the book, reach out to us. And all we want is some evidence that you purchased it, and we'll give you access to a special community we created. This was fantastic. Thanks, Justin. And look forward to hearing comments below. What do you like? What do you disagree with? What something else that's important you'd like us to cover next time?